instead of receiving a income from this Delaware statutory trust, it goes towards paying off the loan. And so over time, my debt over basis is greatly reduced.
The sales price we have is $4.2 million, right? And
Correct.
this is a property. In fact, if you want to look it up, it's 1878 Vine Street. It's in Denver, Colorado. It's 18 units, right? Built in 64, about 13,000 square feet, about a Class C property. But mostly ones. In fact, only one studio, but it's getting really solid rents. And so, and now it had an adjusted basis of about $730,000, and it had a debt of about $1.75 million, right?
Correct.
But it had key here. It had a mortgage over basis of $1 million, and we're going to get technical right now. And this is important because, the Deferred Sales Trust is amazing in a lot of ways that we're going to talk about here, but also it doesn't solve every single problem. And one of the problems it cannot solve is what's called a mortgage over basis or debt over basis. And so we actually had to combine two DSTs. And by the way, this is why we're calling the show Exiting Denver $4.2 million multifamily using DST with the S at the end. S is because it's dual, right? So we're doing a partial Delaware 1031 exchange and a partial deferred sales trust. And so are you ready to geek out, Ron, on this?
Absolutely. And actually, I want to just highlight one other part of my background because this was a surprise to me. I also have an MBA from Pepperdine. I also have a master's in taxation from DU Law School. And I was unfamiliar with the debt over basis issue. So you educated me to that, but not only did you educate me to that as a problem, but you provided a brilliant solution. I was so impressed with. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and get into those numbers, that would be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ron, for sharing that. And I'm learning something new today. By the way, this is the first time that Ron and I actually have met on a Zoom video. We've only had phone calls, and so you guys are getting a chance to connect with us. Because Ron, this from start to finish, I think it's been about maybe 45, 60 days. We had to wait a little bit to get things with the 1031, but all that being said, let's dive right into it. Okay, so there's two things to solve for, right? First thing is the capital gains tax, right? So if you just take the $4.2 million property and you have an adjusted basis of about $730,000, that's going to give a gain of approximately, I'm doing the math right here, approximately $3.47 million. So there's federal of 20%. Right? There's Obamacare of 3.8. Then there's state of Colorado, which I believe is around 5%.
It's around 5.
Yeah, around 5%. Okay, and then you have depreciation recapture, which depending on if you've done straight line. I think Ron had just done straight line on this one, right, Ron?
I think so.
Yeah. And so we like to use collectively 20, 24, 29. Let's use another 3%. So about 32%. I'm sorry, 32%. That's right, 32%.
Yeah.
So 32%, but about $1.1 million liability, right? So if Ron
Correct.
does nothing here, and this is part of where people, before they find us, they're like, gosh, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. I want to retire. I want to be more retired. I want to spend less time with the toilet trash and liability, more time with my energy. But if I exit, it's going to cost me 1.1. Or I have to maybe do a 1031 exchange where I give up all the control or to like a Delaware statutory company completely, or I buy something that I don't actually really want to buy because
Correct.
I have to maybe overpay for something, right? All of these reasons why we like to say that the old 1031 is Blockbuster and the Deferred Sales Trust is Netflix. Okay, so these are things to solve for. However, we have what's called a mortgage over basis. So this mortgage over basis is about $1 million. Remember, the debt was 1.75. The basis is about 730. So it's about $1 million mortgage over basis.
Sure.
So Ron, talk through how we solve that mortgage over basis the best way you can with the Delaware, and I'll fill in as well.
Sure. And so just how we got to the mortgage over basis issue, about 5 years ago when I had an adjustable loan that reset that I could lock it in for 5 years at a time. So after the first 5 years of owning it outright, I pulled out about $850,000. And so that with the additional depreciation is how we ended up with that $1 million of debt over basis. So the way we solved the debt over basis problem was with a Delaware statutory trust. They put us into, I believe it's called a zero coupon DST that was associated with an Amazon warehouse. This warehouse, they borrow about almost 85% of the investment that they have in the warehouse. And so they're able to basically help me pay down. So if by putting money into that, at that leverage, I only have to put in, I think I put in 180,000 that times, at an 83% LTV gets us to about $1 million of total ownership. Instead of receiving a income from this Delaware statutory trust, it goes towards paying off the loan. And so over time, my debt over basis is greatly reduced. It sounds like typically these deals go about 7 years before they end up selling the real estate portion off. And so in about 7 years, my debt over basis issue should be down to something that I can move into more of a regular Delaware statutory trust or a 1031 exchange type opportunity.
Yep. And let me bring that. And that was really well said, Ron. And let me bring a little bit more context too. So part of what the debt over basis piece that we need to solve for is what's called replacing the debt over basis, right? So this is part of where the 1031 is our friend here. And by the way, we love 1031 exchanges, especially for these type of scenarios, right, where the deferred sales trust cannot solve for the debt over basis because the debt needs to be replaced. In a deferred sales trust, the debt is paid off at closing, and it's part of why it's the debt-free plan. But to the extent, since Ron refinanced at a certain point, pulled out tax-free refinance money at the time, mm-hmm. it's getting like recaptured, and the government's saying, hey, now you've had that, you've been using it. But if you don't replace that debt over basis, then you're going to pay ordinary income tax. So it's even worse than just capital gains tax rates. It's ordinary income tax rates. So it's like a double whammy there. So what we did was we had all of the funds at closing, net of the debt. So in this scenario, it'd be 4.2 million, and then approximately 1.75 minus some closing costs sent to the qualified intermediary. So about 2.45 million. Now of that, we have 45 days to identify and 180 days to close on the Delaware 1031 piece, which meant Ron allocated about $180,000, which is a really beautiful thing because Amazon is the tenant. And so the bank and the owner, they're willing to structure the deal to give maximum amount of loan to value, which these zero coupon deals are specifically designed for, okay, to solve this exact problem. Okay, so all this little amount of equity, which is 180, is going to replace the debt over basis, which is about $1 million. But then the rest of the equity can go into the deferred sales trust. So you might have to rewind that a couple times, but I want to let you know you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to get a no cost, no obligation consultation to go through your debt over basis challenges, as well as look at the deferred sales trust for the option.